Despite entering the 2024 playoffs as the top seed in the Western Conference, a lot of NBA analysts didn't believe that the OKC Thunder star power would translate to the postseason. The Thunder were called the weakest number 1 seed that the league has had in a very long time, and some even thought that potential play-in teams like the Warriors, Lakers, or Kings would be able to beat the Thunder in a first-round series. Even entering the second round, most media outlets already hailed the Denver Nuggets and Minnesota TImberwolves matchup as the de facto Western Conference Finals. But currently, the Thunder are still alive and thriving in the postseason, and they're tied with the Dallas Mavericks in their second-round series 2 games apiece. But what's even more impressive with what OKC's been doing is that, despite being such a young and inexperienced playoff squad, after 8 postseason games, their current 100.7 defensive rating is actually the best in the playoffs, while their plus 10.7 net rating also ranks second only behind the Boston Celtics. Well, sure, nobody expected the Minnesota TImberwolves to enter the playoffs looking strong right off the bat. They swept Phoenix in the first round, and they're also tied with the defending champions Denver Nuggets in their own second-round series. There's a reason why people are raving about Anthony Edwards and company. But again, the media shouldn't be downplaying how good OKC has looked in the playoffs either, because the deeper we go into the postseason, the evidence just keeps piling up that this Thunder team, which the NBA called too young, too small, and too inexperienced to win, are already legitimate contenders to reach the NBA Finals and to go even beyond that. Still, concerns exist about OKC's potential weaknesses, especially when compared to their potential next-round opponents in the Denver Nuggets and the Minnesota TImberwolves. So in this video, let's look into the narratives thrown out there about the factors that might stop OKC's unprecedented playoff run, and why the Thunder just might be able to destroy all those narratives. So what's good everyone, it's Real Balls here, but before we continue, if you do happen to enjoy this video, please do me a favor by hitting that like button. It definitely goes a long way and it will be much appreciated. Let's get to it. There's usually a standard for playoff success set for NBA teams. First, get a taste of the postseason but lose in the first round, then advance to the second round soon after, then lose in the conference finals a couple of times, and only with all that experience should a team really be expected to break through and win an NBA title. So if the OKC Thunder make a really deep playoff run this season, they'll definitely do so having skipped a lot of steps, which then brings us to the first narrative thrown at OKC, which is that they're too young and too inexperienced to go deep in the postseason right now. Well, sure, before this 2024, the Thunder haven't reached the playoffs since the 2020 bubble, and they haven't won a playoff series since Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook led the way in 2016. At the same time, all 5 of OKC's current starters are aged 25 or younger, and the team as a whole has an average age of just 23.4 years old. And for reference, no under 24 team has ever won the NBA title before. But maybe the reality is, nobody this young has ever won it all before simply because no young team before has been as good as the 2024 OKC Thunder. Cause looking at it, over the last 40 years, this current Thunder team is one of only 3 teams with an average age below 24 years old to reach the NBA playoffs. Coincidentally, the other 2 teams are the Thunder's direct predecessors. One is the 2010 OKC Thunder, who entered the playoffs as the 8th seed who lost to the eventual champion LA Lakers in the first round, while the other one is the 2011 OKC Thunder, who entered the playoffs as a number 4 seed who reached the conference finals but who lost to the eventual champion Dallas Mavericks. And the thing is, at least statistically, this 2024 OKC team appears to be much better than those 2 earlier OKC teams, despite this 2024 team being younger. Cause looking at it, the 2024 Thunder are a top seed and have won 57 games with a plus 7.4 point differential in the regular season, while the second best under 24 team, which was the 2011 Thunder, won 55 games with a plus 3.8 point differential. As you can see, their win-loss records are very close, but this current Thunder team has a point differential that is essentially double that of the 2011 roster. Meaning, the 2024 Thunder might not have a Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden big 3, but they've definitely looked more potent in the regular season. Plus, they've entered their first postseason together, having already produced an MVP runner-up in SGA, an efficient sophomore second scorer who's putting up borderline all-star numbers in J-Dub, and a 2-way stretch big man who's primed to make multiple All-NBA teams in Chet Holmgren. To round up their starting lineup, OKC has one of the best perimeter defensive stoppers in the league in Dort, and in Josh Giddey, they have a 6'9" supplementary playmaker who when hot can make sagging defenses pay by hitting three-pointers. Even off the bench, OKC has some reliable two-way role players in Cason Wallace, Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, and Jalen Williams, who all understand their roles and who are all capable of getting buckets on any given night. Those aforementioned guys make up 9 of OKC's 10 playoff rotation spots, and the crazy thing is, nobody among those 9 guys is older than 25. Also, among all those players, only Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Dort have played significant playoff minutes before, which they got in OKC's first-round loss to Houston back in the 2020 bubble. Well, that one remaining spot in OKC's playoff rotation belongs to 34-year-old veteran Gordon Hayward, but up to this point, Hayward has played the least amount of minutes among OKC's playoff rotation, and he's barely been a factor throughout the playoffs too. It's just that we've never seen a team with so little playoff exposure before do what the Thunder are doing right now. This team appears to be the best young team in NBA history, so it shouldn't be surprising to see them experiencing exponential growth rather than linear growth in this year's playoffs. They've already broken records as the youngest team to win a playoff series, so who says they can't be the youngest team to make the conference finals or even the NBA finals as well? But then, moving on, another narrative thrown at OKC is that their lack of size is going to backfire against them in the playoffs. Well, the thing is, OKC plays with a positionless 5-out system, which emphasizes outside shooting, forcing turnovers, and getting out in transition, while giving a premium in skill rather than traditional size. This is why they're comfortable playing up to 4 guards on the floor at the same time, even with 7-foot Chet Holmgren on the bench in some instances. But it's no secret that a trade-off of that approach for the Thunder has been them occasionally being out-rebounded. In fact, OKC finished the regular season with the second worst defensive rebounding rate in the entire NBA. However, in the playoffs, it's been a totally different story so far, as among all 8 remaining playoff teams, OKC has actually averaged the second most defensive rebounds per game, only behind the Boston Celtics. Plus, it's starting to look like giving up size for speed and shooting hasn't necessarily prevented OKC from winning in the postseason. In the first round, against a Pelicans team which featured a strong post-up big in Jonas Valanciunas, the Thunder were barely out-rebounded by just 2.5 rebounds per game. Chet Holmgren's ability to space the floor and to create his own shot off the dribble as a 7'1" guy has forced the Pelicans to play smaller and to bench the slower Valanciunas in stretches, giving OKC more room to crash for rebounds. And also so far in the second round, despite the Dallas Mavericks having a couple of more athletic and more mobile 7-footers in Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively at center, in 4 games, OKC has still actually out-rebounded Dallas on the defensive glass, 135-128. Well, sure, both the Pelicans and the Mavs have been able to impose their size on the Thunder at times, but throughout the playoffs, OKC has still found other ways to win the possession game, as they lead the entire postseason in terms of steals per game, blocks per game, while also forcing the most opponent turnovers per game. And regardless of OKC's history of rebounding struggles, the thing is, there's actually evidence that bad rebounding doesn't necessarily equate to bad play in the postseason. Looking at it, over the past 20 years, there have been a total of 11 teams that were able to secure at least a top 3 seed despite having a regular season defensive rebounding rate which was at least 1.5 percentage points below the league average. But out of those 11 bad rebounding teams, 9 actually reached at least the conference finals, while 2 of those teams, the 2014 Miami Heat and the 2017 Golden State Warriors, even made the NBA Finals, with that 2017 Warriors team even winning the NBA title. Well, for sure, OKC's lack of size will still be viewed as a detriment against them, more so against either one of Denver or Minnesota if they do advance in the conference finals. But as the numbers show, if a team was able to withstand their rebounding problems over the course of an 82-game season, enough for them to land a top 3 seed just like OKC did, then they would probably be able to keep winning in the playoffs too. But I think if there's one narrative thrown at OKC that I would have to agree on and which I think makes actual sense, it's the narrative that a huge factor for the Thunder's great play in the regular season has been them being able to stay healthy. Cause to be fair, all 5 of OKC's starters have played at least 71 games, with Chet Holmgren even playing all 82 games. Even their key bench pieces have largely been available, as Isaiah Joe, Cason Wallace, and Aaron Wiggins have all appeared in at least 78 games in the regular season each. And overall, according to Spotrac data, the Thunder only lost a total of 61 player games because of injury this season, which is the least games lost by any team due to injury in 2024. The Timberwolves came in as the second healthiest team team with only 73 player games lost, while the other 28 remaining teams averaged 200 games lost to injury. And the good thing for OKC is, up to this point, they've been able to stay uniquely healthy in the playoffs. And in the 2024 postseason that's been largely defined by injuries so far, it's definitely worth something to be the postseason's youngest team with a strong track record of being healthy. Looking at it, some supposed to be contenders like the Bucks and the Clippers have already been eliminated because of injured star players, while the Knicks, Cavs, and Celtics are also each dealing with injuries to all-star players right now. Same can be said for the Mavs, Nuggets, and Pacers too, assuming Luka Doncic, Jamal Murray, and Tyrese Haliburton aren't really at 100%. But in contrast, OKC and Minnesota were the healthiest teams in the regular season, and at least at the moment, they're also the healthiest playoff squads. And the thing is, in the event that Minnesota versus OKC conference finals materializes, the Thunder might not even be favored by the odds to win, in part because of just how dominant Minnesota has looked in the playoffs so far. But for a team set up so well to win the coming seasons with so many incoming draft picks and so much young talent, I still think OKC's chances of winning right now earlier than anyone expected are still underrated. Another narrative we often hear is that OKC is the team of the future, but in reality, they also are starting to look like a team that can win it all now. So thank you guys. If you've actually made it this far into the video, feel free to drop your thoughts in the comment section below. And again, if you enjoyed this one, please help me out by hitting that like button or by clicking that subscribe button. Again, this is Real Balls, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.